Coming in today, we have another fight preview. Today we have sponsored athlete Jordan Nash. He's fighting out of Hardcore MMA in Lake City, Florida. Jordan's a 1-0 professional MMA fighter and now is about to toe the line for Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships on October 16th in Plant City. So, Jordan, thanks for your time today. Thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Pretty good. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, we're excited to have you. We were talking a little bit offline before we started this about your decision to, come to the bare knuckle side of fighting. You had your first pro MMA fight in March, right before the shutdowns and the quarantines. So why bare knuckle and why now?
Well, I've been fighting since I was fresh out of high school. That's when I started training and everything. And to me, I would like to get back to the root of it. You know what I mean? Make me feel that feeling. I don't really get that rush from MMA as much as I do anymore. It's more about the business side of MMA. But for me, bare knuckle boxing is just getting out there and just grinding it out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And bare knuckle is also, when you watch it, it's a little more raw, right there.
Yeah.
Through their production style, all the way through the actual fights. There's a lot more blood, a lot more cuts. Is that something that is also kind of drawing you into that sport? Is just the rawness of it, the feel of it?
Absolutely. I also like the people who compete, their mentality, you know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
unrivaled anywhere else. It's kind of, like you said, raw,
And the people that compete in bare knuckle, like you said, their mentality is much different. You watch a bare knuckle fight compared to an MMA fight in Bellator, UFC, what have you. The bare knuckle guys, they got to go for it, right? Because they're almost always ending in finishes. So your mentality coming from MMA, where people can just kind of grind it out, lay and pray, be on top. Is that something else that excites you? Is that most of these fights do end in finishes?
Yeah, it's definitely got a unique, a unique thing about it that other sports don't have. You don't see a whole lot of decisions, and if they do, it's, it's the fight of the night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those decisions are pretty exciting, and they're usually just decisions because one guy or the other guy doesn't go down, right? It's not that they're
Hmm.
not getting hit with big shots; it's just that they got good chins.
Absolutely.
So you're kind of on a short notice here, right? We got this fight coming up in, what is it, 9 days from the time that we're recording this.
Yes.
So have you been kind of eyeing different, MMA, boxing, bare knuckle fights that you could possibly be on, staying in shape, kind of just throwing your name out there? Or how'd you get involved with bare knuckle?
Well, I train year round, so I'm always, in a month or two, I could be in the best shape of my life. I'm never far from it. But my opponent and I don't get along, and we've been, exchanging some words. And I beat him before in MMA, and he's saying that if we were to stood up instead of me taking him down, that he would have won. So, what better way than to come out to bare knuckle boxing?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of throws it back to those days, in the schoolyard when it's you guys
Absolutely,
don't like
man.
each other and, your friends circle around and, you know, one guy walks away, the other guy loses. So that kind of is the same thing that you guys can do right now, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely.
Now your MMA style, you said you took him down in the last fight. Are you more of a wrestler, grappler, jiu-jitsu fighter? Do you like to stand and bang? How do
Um,
your fights usually go in MMA?
I wrestled in high school, so initially that was where my elite level of training was. That's where my comfortability was. If someone loaded up on a hook, it was instinctive to just shoot it on a single leg or a double leg. But as I developed, I definitely became. I kickboxed one time, and I fell in love with it. And it was hands from then on out.
Mhm. And going into a bare knuckle fight is, I think, a little bit different even than MMA or a boxing kickboxing fight, just because in boxing your range or your distance measuring is a little farther, with the bigger gloves, and MMA it comes
Mhm.
down a little bit smaller. But now you just bare knuckle. So is that something that you've changed up your training for since you've signed this contract? Have you been like doing mitt work bare knuckle just with wraps, anything like that?
Um, Oddly enough, our trainer, he's very unorthodox, so we've actually been bare knuckle boxing to the body for my entire career.
Hmm.
Not often, you know what I mean, but enough for it to condition you and everything like that.
Yeah, so is that like a hand conditioning and a body conditioning drill back and forth, kind of
Yeah,
like a
because I
two-person drill?
mean, keeping your wrist straight. You know what I mean? That's an important part of it that a lot of things get left out on, especially in boxing gloves when you could land from so many different angles.
Hmm.
But you know, in MMA, you'll roll your wrists, so it's kind of important to focus on keeping your wrist straight, and that helps us do that.
Yeah, and in MMA also, like, that wrist movement, some guys don't like their wrists wrapped at all because they're more of a
Mm.
submission guy, right? And they like to like sneak chokes in and be able to move their hands. And then you have your strikers who it's pretty much a straight club, right? When
Yeah,
they get
the
their hands
brick.
taped.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're fighting, you're getting your hands wrapped for MMA fights. What do you prefer with the padding and the wrist wrap?
Um, my trainer has a unique way of wrapping hands that I've never really seen before. He'll wrap everything kind of like that brick you was talking about, but he'll cut out the palm, so you still everything's tight, but you still have that ability to grip.
Yeah, so and you can when they've cut the palm out, you can kind of actually roll, your fingers around that wrap, which is nice too. And
Yeah,
I've
it's
seen
still something to hold on to.
I've seen guys that actually have gone, with the other hand inside the grip, so that's kind of fun too. Um, Now with with this bare knuckle fight, it is on short notice, and like you said, it's kind of a regional show for Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships, and they're gaining a lot of popularity. They just signed Paige Van Zant recently, so it's something that it keeps moving up, and they keep gaining followers. Um, you know, we were talking a little bit beforehand how you're still an MMA fighter, but bare knuckle is kind of what presented itself to you now. So say you have a little bit of success here in bare knuckle. Is that something that you could see yourself continuing to fight alongside MMA, or would you eventually get to the point where you'd say, okay, I want to pick one or the other?
Um, I I basically plan on using bare knuckle boxing to kind of financially support myself to get better MMA because it pays a little bit better there on a regional level than it is out in MMA.
Hmm. And if say they come again with another short notice fight, you'd be down to just keep chugging along and say, I'm down to fight pretty much anyone at your weight class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Considering that this one fight is kind of a bad blood fight between you and your opponent, but
Yeah.
that's not something that you would need necessarily, is what I'm asking
No,
too.
absolutely not.
Okay.
It wouldn't affect me either going into bare knuckle and being friends with the guy. I mean, that's
Mhm.
just what we do.
And another thing that happens a lot in bare knuckle is people break their hands. So you
Mhm.
were talking about your coach has an unorthodox way of kind of strengthening the hands, conditioning them. Do you think that's going to pay off in your ability to throw a little bit harder as a bare knuckle fighter? Because you see some guys
Yeah.
punches, right? They're only throwing 60, 65, 70% in fear of breaking their hands.
Also, I think it comes from obviously you get a little bit excited. Like you said, it's more raw. You feel more nerve. It feels more real.
Mhm.
So I think people tend to throw a little bit less accurate and land shots on the forehead, and that's probably what's going to break a hand more than anything else. Which as long as I stay calm, I think I can throw as hard as I can to the chin, the jaw, the nose, and I think I'd be pretty safe.
And that is, something that even with boxing gloves on, I've seen in the training room where, you got wrestlers who lead with their forehead and somebody throws a
Hmm.
straight right down the pipe and, they break their hand on that forehead.
Yes.
So it's no different in a boxing glove than, like you said, bare knuckle. Um, so, you know, going into the fight, right? It's a little bit different. You're fighting for a new promotion. Are you thinking about weigh-ins? What's going to be going on backstage? How are you going to warm up for a bare knuckle fight as opposed to an MMA fight? Like, what's that going to look like?
Um. Uh, I'm not really too worried about the weigh-ins or anything. I fought for a lot of different promotions, so I don't think I'll focus on that too much. For the warm-up, I don't think it would be any different. I would focus more on stretching my upper body than my lower body, but I haven't really thought about that. That's a good question.
And it's just to kind of branch off of that, your combos, right, in MMA are going to vary a little bit from the combos that you throw in a bare knuckle fight, right? Because now you're not worried about anybody getting in on your hips. You can kind of, like you said, throw those hooks a little wider. You can open your elbow a little bit more. You can have a little bit of an more upright stance. So is
Yeah,
that something else that you're going to be using, right, to your advantage?
yeah, definitely. What I consider to be the biggest difference is in the head movement. You know, in MMA, you can only move so much before you're getting kicked and kneed in the head, but
Hmm.
now you got the dipping and the rolling involved where you're safe. I think that'll be the biggest difference for me.
Yeah, you can roll essentially your head below your belly button, right? And you're
Yeah,
okay.
and in
Whereas
MMA, that is a no-no.
that's a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, so do you have you fought this guy once before, beat him in MMA. Now you're fighting him in bare knuckle. You got a prediction for how this fight's going to go? I kind of saw you guys jarring a little bit back and forth on social media, so I'm kind of excited to watch it.
Yeah, I definitely I plan on ending it in the first exchange. However long that first exchange needs to be, we're not going to separate until one of us goes down.
Awesome, man. I'm excited. So before I let you go, I just want to give you a chance to, give any shout outs to, anybody that's been helping you along the way, coaches, sponsors, friends and family, the stage is kind of yours to, give them a shout out.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my trainer, Joel Nettles. He puts in a lot of time in us. You know what I mean? He runs a fighter gym. You know what I mean? He doesn't cater to people that don't fight. You know what I mean? So a lot of the stuff comes out of pocket because obviously when you're running a gym for fighters instead of business, it's a little bit thin. I'd also like to thank some of my sponsors with Brad Taylor at Andrew Site Prep and K-Alt Plumbing. They definitely help me out every fight.
Awesome, Jordan. We're excited to see it. October 16th, you'll be fighting for Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships, the Toe the Line Regional Series. Good luck, and we'll talk to you on the other side.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.